Good morning, I'm Cody Hendrickson. Today we're going to be looking at how we can use some color inside iOS and do some quick stuff with that. So let's go ahead and go to Xcode and start a brand new project and go from there. So I'm just going to go make a brand new project inside Xcode. We're going to go through the standard process we use all the time. Again, if you want to take a look at how to do this in more detail, take a look at my video that goes over this really fast. But we just make a single view app, any color demo, because we're just going to do a quick demo for this. And go ahead and hit next on this. We want to make sure it's inside our Swift project folder so we can keep track of it using our project we've been working with. So it goes right inside there, and hit create again. As always, we're going to be using GitHub practice just to make sure we do this properly. So go up to GitHub, put a new repository in, add the repo. We're going to go ahead and make a brand new repo. It has to be the same name as the project that we just made right here. So we'll just make it mini color demo. Same exact spelling we worked with earlier. And this should be the same path right here. Again, notice that ends in Swift is that same folder we worked with. We can click choose and make sure it's that folder structure right here so we can see that project listed as well. We're good to go. Hit create repository. Boom. First thing we do is we undo that initial commit because we want to arrange our project a little bit better. I go up to repository, go down to repo settings, and I go to ignored files and I add bin/.ds_store. *.xcuserstate and *.class, just in case we're doing any Java projects as well. We have that in there right there. It takes that out of that. We do a quick commit message saying we added an ignore file and commit that to master. Go ahead and publish that up. We're good to go. Keep that as a private repo. Always what we want to set up for that every time we're working for our projects. We always commit, we commit off when we go early. Okay, now that's refreshed, we're going to go ahead and go back to our project. We're going to do the project organization that we do every single time we work on a project. So we're going to click on App Delegate, SceneDelegate, Assets.xcassets, and Info.plist. We're going to right click on those. We're going to go ahead and go down to New Group from Selection. And this is the Resources folder. Now that we've renamed it, we can't build the project anymore, so we have to go up to the Properties and change our build settings for that. We go right up here to the Build Settings, type in Info. And it'll take us right to here in the Packaging section. Change that right here. We're going to just add inside this a slash, and inside the slash, resources slash. So it matches like that. So it shows the path folder. We just put that in, making that in there. We're going to put this inside the controller group. And the launch screen is going to go inside the view group. We're not doing anything with it, but we're just using that same structure. So we always have the same project structure every time we do this. We do Command R to run. We have a building project. It waits for it to start. Simulator gets up and going. It launches it, and boom. But let's go ahead and do something more with that. So we're just going to move that off the side. We're going to go over here again on our controller. In our controller group, we have our ContentView.swift file. I'm going to close my navigator and my attributes panes. I'm going to scroll that over quite a bit. So inside ContentView is the default name of every single app we make, but it doesn't reflect what we're actually doing. So what we should really do on this is we should rename this so that when we're making an app, it reflects what we're actually doing inside that. To rename in Swift or inside Xcode is really pretty easy. We hover over the thing we want to rename, we command click, and we get to rename. And so again, we command click on that, and we're going to rename it what makes what we're doing. So in this case, it's going to be a color view because we're doing a color demo. We have it, you can see it's right now it's selected. It's going to rename in the code. There's 4 spots, 2 code spots, the file name, ContentView.swift, the struct ColorView, and right here, ColorView right here. So we go ahead and rename that right there as well. And we do Command R, stop the mini color demo, build failed. Rename. Oh, it did not do the rename on that. So because it didn't get that rename properly, we're going to go over here. We're going to go to our resources folder. We're going to go to our appdelegate.swift, and right up here at the top, we're going to SceneDelegate.swift, and right up here at the top when it's saying Content View, we want to make sure it renames this properly, and it does that to ColorView as well. So it knows that we can rebuild that. That's the one we're creating with that. So it should create that, rename that as well. So when we rename that, if it doesn't rename it automatically, go right there inside your SceneDelegate.swift and let ContentView equals initialization of the color view. As you can see right there, we've got our hello world. We're good to go. We're going to go back to the color view that we just made right here. And I'll see why that's causing the trouble right there, but we'll fix that later on. And we want to align our squiggles vertically because I like it like that, and we'll talk about it more often. So the first thing we do is we rename, we align our vertical squiggles, so we have it all pretty right there. Just to see what's going on inside this structure really fast so we can see what we're working with. You have the import statement right here, which says we're going to bring in the SwiftUI library and add it to this file so we have access to all the components of SwiftUI. The next block we have is a struct. A struct is like a thing we're making inside Swift. It's not quite as big as an object in memory purposes. We'll talk more about that as we go along, but it's a big thing that we can work with and use very easily. Struct is the default type we'll use inside Swift quite often in new modern Swift programming. What kind of thing we're making in Swift? We're making a ColorView. ColorView is the name of the thing we're making. Because it's a struct or a class type thing, that starts with a capital letter, because when we create it right there, always starts with a capital letter. And it should also match right here the same name as the class itself. So the class and the struct's name should match for a proper design. Then we have a colon and say it conforms to the View protocol. The View protocol is what we're using when we're talking about SwiftUI. We'll go in a lot more detail as we go along with this, and we'll see this a lot more often, but it means that we're going to do everything that a View can do, and we have to have all the requirements that a View has. In this case, the only requirement that a View has is we have to have a variable called body that conforms also to some View type. And that's what we're starting off with. So we have a View that goes with that. So we have a struct called ColorView. It is a View, and it has a data member or a variable called body that is also a View. Now, I don't like the hello world in there. We'll put something better than that. So we'll just do a quick little color project reference. And so we'll change that to color project. And we'll put an emoji in here because we can. So we go up to the emojis and symbols. And I can put an emoji right inside that, bring it right there. We have the happy heart-faced cat. Great stuff to start off with. And so now I can go ahead and rerun my project and start it right up again. And I have, instead of hello world, I have my cute little color project with a cat. Wonderful stuff. So the first thing we want to look at when we're dealing with this is we're talking about how we can actually work with and use Xcode and do a little bit of color options with this. This is the beginning project we're working with. So we want to make it so we can get some projects, get some color on our project, and then we're going to learn how we can do more with that. The first thing I'm going to do is when we're talking about SwiftUI, we have our different components or views like this, the text, and we can apply attributes to them. We can make it so they have some properties that can change about them. And one of the ones we can specifically change very easily is the color. And we'll use that quite often as we go through our projects to do some fun things with that. And the way we do that is we go after the parens of the initialization of that view object. We just go ahead and press enter, and we do dot, and we're going to do background for our background color. And we pass a color we want to use. In this case, I'll use color.purple because I like purple. It's a great color. So right now we can see we have color.purple right there. It automatically indents it in one line because it looks really nice like that. I rerun it, stop it, and restart the demo again that's running on the side of the simulator. And boom, we have a black foreground text and purple background text. It's a cute little color project option. Now, this is quick, it's easy, it's simple, but we can do better than this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a foreground too. Let's see what happens with that. Now, a foreground color, we're going to layer these attributes on top of it. So dot and then foreground color. And color is a new word, so we have to capitalize it. And we use color.orange because that's a nice one. And we can definitely see an orange against a purple background. So again, when we're using these, the attributes get stacked on top of each other. So this first one, the text, gives back a text or a label type thing inside iOS. When I call .background, it takes that text and stacks on top of it a background color. The next one stacks on top of that a foreground color. So on some things, when we're layering the attributes, it can cause an impact and actually affect the ones as they go. The order can matter. When we're talking about background and foreground colors, though, no big deal. We have that working just like that. So we'll go ahead and start the project one more time and see what we do with that. And as you can see, I now have an orange font color. It doesn't affect the emoji at all. And then I have my purple background still right there. So it's a great little thing. Now, as you can see, the background and the foreground only affects the text itself. We'll be working with and going further with this later on, but right now we're just talking about this right here. So that's how we can make those colors happen. Now, those colors are great. Purple, orange, blue, green, red. We have some default colors. They're wonderful, wonderful things. However, we can do even more than that. And so what we need to do more than that is we have to actually create color. And let's do that right now. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go inside the body of the struct. So we're inside the parens, we're inside the body of the structs. We're inside the squiggles right here. As you can see, when I click on the inside one, it has a highlight right there down on the bottom of the lower closing squig, so it can attach to that. We're going to go below the body variable and just give ourselves some space right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a method that can create a random color. As with all computer color-based systems, when we're talking about displaying color to the screen, it's an RGB value. Same thing with Swift. It handles it differently than we do in iOS. When we're working in Swift, we handle color a little bit differently than when we're working with App Inventor or Java. So we're going to make a new color with this. And again, this is using the SwiftUI format. If we're looking at doing this inside the view controller style, using a CG UI color, a little bit different as well. But we're going to be doing this for using the regular SwiftUI and just the color creation. So we'll have that happen right here. And so to do that, we make a method. And methods should be private unless otherwise specified because it belongs only to this struct or only to this class or only to this object. and then we use the keyword func to say that we're making a method specifically for this. Again, as always, our method should describe what we're doing with that thing. In this case, we're going to make a random color. So we will call it createRandomColor. It has no parameters, so we just do open and close parens. And then we're going to indicate with the return operator that we're going to return a value with this. So it's the arrow symbol right there, and it's going to return what? A color. So we have right here the struct. We have the stub for our method. If I do Command B, it's going to fail because I'm not returning anything yet. So I have to actually build a method for this, but we can see how it's going to happen. So we have a method called createRandomColor. It's a private method that belongs only to the struct, so only this thing can use it right now because it's the only thing it needs to use it. It has no parameters, and it returns a color type. In order to create a color, we have to first initialize the values that go into it, the red, the green, and the blue. When we're working with SwiftUI and color, we have values we're working with, a percentage of values, so it's somewhere between 0 to 100% for the color saturation, and we have red, green, and blue just like always. And because we only need to initialize those values once, we use a let for that because we only have to make one of each of those values. So let's do that really fast. We're going to make red, green, and blue values so we can hold those in there and then create a color from that. So the first one is what? Red % equal, so our first one's going to be red %. So we use a let because we only have to assign to it once. We never have to change the value, so it's great to use the let keyword for that. And we'll call it red % because that defines what it is and what we're working with. It's of type double because it uses a percentage value, so it's between 0 and 1 for that value inclusive. And then we'll assign into it a double. And then we're going to use right here arc for random. And then modulo 256. And then divide that value by 255.0. So the first thing we have is let red % be of type double. We're going to assign into that double variable red % the creation of an arc for random, a random number. We're going to divide it by 256, which gives us a number between 0 and 255, because it can have no remainder if it's 256, or it can have up to 255 remainder, because if it has all but one, we have one left over. And we're going to convert that to a double, because we have to, in order to do division, we have to have a matching type. So we have to cast it as a double right there as well. And we're going to do the same thing for green and blue % as well. So we'll just do that right there. Select green %. It's also of type double. And we're just going to do the same thing. It's a double, parens, arc for random, which is the Swift way to get a random number. It just gives us a lovely large random number. We'll do modulo math on that, so modulo 256. Which will give us the value divided by 256 and get the remainder left over. And then divide that answer we get back by 255.0. The same thing for let green %. We'll do the same for let blue %. Also of type double. So again, we're making those three values, red, green, and blue %. All of them are of type double. If you want to do this, you can align all the lovely colons vertically like that. You can see and make sure you're doing the math all properly. It's really helpful, I've found, to make sure you have your parens and stuff match up nicely. You can check to make sure your math is all happening properly. And again, with Swift, it's important that we either have no spaces or we provide spaces. And since it's a lot easier to read with spaces, we put a space both before and after the operators, always, so we can make sure we can easily read what's happening. So I take that value of the arc for random modulo 256. I then turn that to a double, do the division by 255 because PEMDAS works and order of operation works just the same in Swiftland as it does in regular Mathland. I then take those three red, green, and blue values. I'm going to use it to initialize a color value. So I'm going to use another let because I only need to do it once. And I'll call it my random color because it's a great name. And it's going to be of type color. And we're explicitly defining the color type. And then we'll initialize the color by using the color init. And it takes a red parameter. We'll pass that red %. A green parameter. And guess what? We pass that green %. And a blue parameter. And we also pass that blue %. I can't type today. So to create the color, all we have to do is use a color type. We then use the color init. This is an init of a color struct. It has three parameters, red, green, and blue. The named parameter then has a colon and the value we pass that parameter, and that does it for each of those parameters right there. You can see we separate each of those parameters with a comma between the name and the value that's associated with it. We then grab that color and return it. So now we have a method that can create a random color. Now, earlier we had the background of purple and the foreground as orange. Instead, let's just change that right now. Instead of having a foreground of orange, let's replace that orange foreground, replace it with a call to our create random color method. So I just do that right here with a call to create random color. So I just do the name of the method. Followed by the parens because there's no parameters. And I just rerun my app again. Instead of having an orange background now, we have for our foreground color, I have a light green color. Oh, let's redo this again. Stop it, rerun it again. And now I have a darker purple. So as you can see, when I'm using that random color, I have no control over the actual color itself. I could use some specific values in here, so I can make it so I can have a range of colors in here. So like, oh, I can get a random red, and I can make sure that my values are only within a certain range of stuff on that. And I could handle that by using some scaling and shifting of the values attached to the red, green, or blue %, so I can keep it in a certain color range if I want. I can even make it be a random gray, so they could all be the same gray color. That'd be kind of boring, but we could do it. And so we can use some quick little information on this to make some stuff happen with that. And so that's how we can do color within a text and do some quick with that. Now I'm going to introduce one more thing really quickly right here. I have a whole other video about this on how to use organizations of stacks with this as well, but I did a quick demo with this as well in class. I want to make sure you have a chance to see it here too. So again, we have that required variable of body, but body can only take one thing, but sometimes I need to show many things. And so how can I show many things inside my one thing I have to have? Well, I use stacks, and we have 3 different stacks we can use, a V, H, or Z stack. When we're talking text, we only want to use either a V or an H. A Z stack doesn't make sense, and we'll see why in just a second. To do a stack, all we have to do is inside the body, we go up here in the very beginning of it, and we'll write the word V stack. And then we press enter, do a set of squigs, and I like to have, again, like always, align vertically. And I'm just going to grab this text, move it up in here, so it's right back inside that. And then after that, I'll put another text in. And we'll call this one middle. And then we'll have the next one, a text. And inside this one, last. So we have text, middle, and last. I rerun this right here. All my attributes are only on that top text, so it's the only thing that's going to be attached to that. And as you can see right there, only that one has the color attached to it. This time I have a greenish blue for my color, that's my foreground, and the middle and last have no color effect on them at all. So we have that right there. We can have those going on with it as well. And so we can also do that instead of a V stack, I can change this to be an H stack, a horizontal stack for organizing things horizontally. So I'm going to rerun that one more time right here, do an H stack on that, and now I have it going from left to right. Again, the first one's on the left, the last one's on the right. No big deal. Now, we want to see what happens with the Z stack just so we can see it and why we don't want to use that inside text. When you do a Z stack, I'm talking about Z ordering, so it's from front to back. And as you can see, layering text doesn't look so hot, so don't do it. Yeah. So V stack is the one we'll use the most often when we're talking about using text-based components because we're stacking things up vertically and we're using it to organize information so we can easily see things and display that. And that's probably going to be the most one we'll be using all the time when we're talking about using a struct inside SwiftUI. And then boom, here we go again. We have one last time. One last thing to do to show before we leave for the day, we can also take those attributes we're working for right here, and I can apply those attributes the same to my VStack itself. So I can go right here at the very beginning on this. I'm going to go ahead and add one more thing on here. And I'm going to go on the bottom of that VStack, and I'm just going to do a dot on the VStack itself, and I'm going to say its background color, and we'll have it be a random color here. So create random color. So I'm going to apply a random color to the background of my VStack, rerun this one more time, and bada boom, bada bang, there's my vertical stack. There's a random color right inside here for the color itself of that one, and the entire thing itself has its own background color right there. Now, you might be asking, how can I do this to make it so I can make a background color for the entire screen and not just the stack? Well, wait till next time and we'll show you how to do that as well. Thanks again and have a great day. Cheers.